live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Yes, it is another day. Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. Wednesday, June 21st. Apparently, I'm told the first day of summer. What do you know? We're going in depth tonight. The latest out of Davis County regarding the Bible in schools, what one lawmaker is trying to do to ensure people can keep their AC units on this summer. And we're talking Jazz and the upcoming NBA draft. 3 first-round picks for now. Before we dive in, here's a look at what's making headlines tonight. You can find these stories on our website, KUTV.com. A 19-year-old man now in the hospital in critical condition after he was hit by a car. Salt Lake police say the teen was riding a bike near 33rd South, 5th East when he was hit by a car. I do believe these are from last night. Ignore them. New details tonight on a story we broke Monday night about an organized crime retail ring in Salt Lake Valley. Today, the Utah Attorney General's office sent out an official release with a couple new details. Police arrested 2 women who are suspected to have stolen from 5 different stores in 3 counties. Also in headlines tonight, the Federal Trade Commission suing Amazon, accusing the company of tricking its customers. Today, the FTC filed a federal lawsuit alleging Amazon deceived millions of consumers into signing up for its Prime subscription service. And finally, in our headlines tonight, a scary warning for some pet owners tonight. After a coyote kills a dog in Salt Lake County, animal service workers say coyotes are not protected wildlife, so there's no management strategy in place. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive. You can always find us on the socials, which are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us a direct message on any of those platforms to weigh in. The controversy has grabbed attention around the world. The Bible was in Davis schools, then banned from some schools earlier this month. Now it's approved to be back in all schools. Brian Malahy tracking this one for us in Farmington. Brian, you put a number of questions to the district today. What did you ask and what did they say?
Well, how much time was spent to review the Bible, both by the original review committee and the appeals committee? How much money, if any, aside from board salaries, was used to review the Bible? What about reading the materials, including the Bible and other books? So 101 books have been challenged in the Davis district. That's more than, as far as we know, any other district across the state. How much do the reviewers have to read in order to make a determination on whether this book stays or this book goes? We did not get direct answers on those questions today. Instead, district spokesman sent us a statement from the district, a recitation of board policy related to sensitive materials in schools, directed us to file a formal records request on at least 2 of the questions. And then in terms of the meeting in which the board unanimously reversed the earlier decision and brought the Bible back to all schools, we got a link to that as well. So that's how the district responded to us today.
Brian Malahy in Farmington for us. Brian, I just find this really interesting. We've been covering this now for a few weeks. Any indication, why are we having this conversation now about the Bible and at one point the Book of Mormon? What is it about right now that involves this conversation? Where does it originate from?
Well, I think that's a really good question, and I don't think we have a real answer for it yet. I think there is some speculation out there, Brian, that these challenges were raised to the Bible and to the Book of Mormon in retaliation, if you will, as backlash to what the legislature did in approving House Bill 374, which set a bright line standard for pornography and materials in schools. And if a book crossed over into that bright line of this is obviously porn, then that material is supposed to be removed from schools. It's illegal to have it there. And so these challenges were issued sometime after the legislature passed that law. And you can argue, what's pornographic about the Bible or about the Book of Mormon? And maybe some people can cherry pick passages, but these works are supposed to be taken as as a whole, not just specifically for certain passages. And that raises another question. How much of this stuff is being read before there's a determination on whether it stays or whether it goes. So I think, there are a lot of questions about that right now. The challengers are anonymous. The people who are reviewing these books, anonymous, unless they, tell us who they are in an open session. So getting to that is kind of difficult to do.
Brian Malahy live in Farmington tonight. Brian, very interesting topic of discussion tonight. As always, thank you for the insight and the info. Did you get this breaking push alert on your phone? We sent this out as soon as the district voted to reverse the Bible ban. We've covered this a number of times. To get breaking updates like this, be sure to download our 2 News mobile app. Let's continue to go in depth tonight. It may have felt rather cool for the first day of summer, but make no mistake, the heat appears to be on the way. And we're going to likely hit the 90s in some parts of the state by the end of the week. One lawmaker trying to make sure people can keep their air conditioning on even if they're struggling with their electric bill. Paul Nelson live with more tonight. Paul in the sun himself and some smokestacks behind. Paul, what is this legislator hoping to do?
Well, this is Senator Stephanie Pitcher. She has the proposal to kind of extend the moratorium system. Now, currently, Utah does have a system set up in place for a moratorium on cutting off the power in the winter months. So when it gets below freezing, power companies are actually not allowed to cut off the power when it crosses a certain threshold during the winter months. Now, she wants to expand the exact same kind of situation to the summer when it's, say, for example, if we reach 100 degrees, we don't want power companies actually turning off the electricity to the air conditioning because, and she was saying she was very concerned about, say, older folks and young children. In fact, I spoke with Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services, and they say that seniors overheating or a lack of air conditioning, a lack of being able to stay cool is a problem that they have pretty much every single year. So she still has to kind of fine-tune some of the details before she can actually get this passed. She's brought this up in committee meetings before, but some lawmakers kind of pointed out how they tried similar stuff in Arizona, for example, and that actually backfired. You had a lot of people that were just getting really high power bills and they couldn't pay them off later on. So that's the thing that she wants to focus on now, making sure that that doesn't happen to Utahns.
Paul, is this common? Is this happening every summer during the warm months, the hot months? What's sort of the background on this?
Well, other states, it is pretty common for a lot of other states to have a kind of moratorium on cutting off the electricity when it gets really hot or really cold. As far as turning off the power when somebody can't really pay, that's something that Rocky Mountain power officials told me they don't really like doing that. They want to keep the power going. Realistically, the only time they would just completely cut off the power would be when they've tried every single method to kind of reach out and communicate with the customer and they just can't get through to that person. That's really the only time that they would really cut the power off completely. But they say as long as you stay in touch with them, they can kind of work another system around. They can find maybe a payment plan that they could work with. But what's going on, though, is that Stephanie Pitcher says that this kind of moratorium, hopefully it's never used. The winter moratorium is hardly ever used at all. But she says she wants to keep it as a backup just in case things happen and maybe a crisis hits.
Paul Nelson, never off, always on, and on with us here on 2 News Live. Thank you, sir. We want to hear from you. How do you run your AC in the hot summer months? Scan the QR code on your screen to weigh in. Let's take a look at the latest numbers. 48% of you rather saying programmable thermostat. That's what you do. The second most manually doing this every morning, every night. Some of you set and forget. Some of you are saying, what air conditioning? I'm right with you guys. That's how I grew up. No AC, just a lot of fans. Can you believe that, Chase Thomason? He's looking at me like I'm crazy. Do you even believe that? It's true. I didn't have AC growing up.
Well, I mean, did you grow up in the mountains?
I grew up in New England where we had very humid summers,
right.
Not necessarily reaching 107. I was expecting to see it, sorry, from 2021.
Yep.
But it definitely got hot. It just got uncomfortable because it was sticky. Yeah. It was really humid.
Hey, you know what? It makes you go outside, right?
Makes me go outside and makes me sleep without the covers if you want a lot of information.
That's right. All right, so speaking of hot temperatures, of course, it's the first day of summer.
Nice.
It's the summer solstice.
Yep.
It's also the longest day of the year. Here in Salt Lake, we get just over 15 hours of daylight with that sunrise just before 6, sunset just after 9. Of course, you still got that twilight. It's a very long day. So going forward, our days are getting shorter.
So what are you doing tonight?
Working.
You're supposed to say, oh, I'm going outside. We can't be outside with Francis until the sun goes down at what?
That would be nice.
9:02.
Now that I get home about 9:30, 9:45, there's still a little bit of twilight. So I do have a few minutes to, hang out with the dog in the yard. And of course, we're loving all this daylight, and we're also loving these temperatures. It doesn't really feel like the first day of summer. 75 degrees. I mean, a really comfortable afternoon here in northern Utah. It's been a little breezy, though, especially in eastern and southern Utah for today. But you can tell where the cooler weather is, and that is out west and across the Pacific Northwest with 60s and 70s on this summer day. The heat, though, it's to our south and to our east. This is where we have a big ridge of high pressure centered right over Texas, and they're dealing with some extreme heat. This is a high of 107 in Midland. Just looked. Austin, Texas had a heat index temperature, or that feels like temperature, because you got to factor in that humidity of 117 degrees. So it can just be miserable right now. And so we're just grateful that we have some drier air and some just mild temperatures, mild weather. 75 currently, so we might climb another degree. We'll see. Typically, we see our daytime high this time of year in the 5 o'clock hour. Tonight, we will be cooling off into the 40s and 50s, so a little chilly out there as the sun goes down. You might need a light jacket, but of course, these are overnight lows. 60s down in southern Utah. Clear skies, but we're going to have a few more clouds bubbling up by tomorrow afternoon. We are tracking our next weather maker, and it's going to bring in some of that cloud cover. It'll also be a little breezy down in southern Utah, 80s and 90s for highs from Cedar down to St. George, Moab, coming in at 96 degrees. So speaking of the wind, it's elevated in eastern Utah this afternoon. Those winds will relax overnight. Then they pick back up tomorrow afternoon, especially in southern Utah. Wind speeds around 15 to 25 miles an hour. It won't be as breezy, though, here in northern Utah. That changes as we wrap up the work week. Friday, it's looking like a pretty windy day. Gusts to over 30 miles per hour can't be ruled out, especially out in eastern Utah with these winds out of the south. You can see everything is kind of rotating. That's our storm system that's going to be brushing by northwestern Utah by Friday and helping to bring maybe some stray thunderstorms to Utah. So there it is right now to our west. Pretty calm and quiet today and tonight. Tomorrow, though, the winds are going to be more out of the south, so there will be a little bit of moisture to work with. So I think some pop-up thunderstorms are possible in the mountains of northern and northeastern Utah. They'll be very hit or miss. Southwestern Wyoming, Evanston might see a shower or two, but rain chances low at about 20%. Gets a little bit closer to Utah on Friday, so maybe some storms near the Idaho border, but generally most of the Wasatch Front should stay dry and will definitely stay dry through the weekend with lots of sunshine arriving, and those temperatures will be rebounding. Now, St. George, we go to 95 tomorrow, but as that storm moves by to your north, we cool off, upper 80s on Friday, which is really pleasant for St. George because your normal high now is approaching 100 degrees. 93 on Saturday, 97 sunny on Sunday, great pool weather. And then we'll see temperatures climb even more next week with highs in southern Utah around 100 degrees. Salt Lake, 84, drops to 81 on Friday, 82 on Saturday. Really nice day on Saturday. Sunday, though, bit warmer as we hit 89 degrees, and it looks like we'll stay in the upper 80s Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Those overnight lows in the 50s, jump up into the 60s. 80s are still good in my book because we're approaching July. However, after that Wednesday, I think there could be more 90s in our forecast here in Salt Lake.
Mr. Thomason, it is windy on Friday. Did I see this weekend that you had to rebuild after losing some of your lawn furniture?
I did. Of course, remember all that dust that we had on Friday. It was Friday, right? It was Monday.
It was at least within the last few days.
It was
I'll
Monday.
give you that because I don't even remember what day
it was Monday.
I have no idea.
I
know. I'm just kidding. It's Wednesday.
Umbrellas tipped over.
Okay.
So Friday, a few might tip over.
Batten down the hatches.
Listen to me. I need to listen to me.
Sure.
And make everything secure.
Listen, a perfect time to start is right now.
Okay.
You can only get better from here.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Thank you, Chase. Remember to download our 2 News weather app to know about changes in your neighborhood. You can get updated forecasts. You can get live radar right at the palm of your hand. It's very easy to do. Just use the 2 News weather app. I have it myself. That's how I'll check and see if the wind is near, Chase. Don't you worry. Hey, let's move on. The Utah Jazz will participate in tomorrow night's NBA draft. The Jazz currently hold 3 first-round picks. The most valuable of those picks, the 9th selection overall. 2 News Sports Director Dave Fox and Spence Checketts from ESPN 700 discussed a few players who could be drafted by the Jazz at number 9.
According to reports, Cam Whitmore is sliding. Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of smart basketball people that view him as a top 5-ish prospect. So if he's there at 9, maybe you consider that a win. I have concerns. Namely, he does not have elite length. He's not a great shooter. His shot-making profile, his shot profile is a bit underwhelming, and he has small hands. Now, he does get buckets, and I think he'll turn into a good NBA three-point shooter. And he's built like a linebacker. He's a live wire. You know, the term that a lot of people use this time of year is great motor. He has that.
Right, okay.
Has an NBA body. He's a ready-made defender, and he can play make. And it's not like he's an awful shooter, but the shot profile is a little underwhelming, and he doesn't have great length, and his hands are kind of small. So I wouldn't want him at 5, but honestly, if he's there at 9 and the Jazz take that flyer, that's not a bad pick.
All right, the Thompson twins. There's
Yes,
2 of them.
there is.
You like one of them at 9.
So I love one of them at 3. I
Well, that's
actually
a good
think
point.
Amin Thompson's the
Yeah.
3rd best prospect in this draft. He will not be there at 9, but Asor Thompson might be. Now, he's actually a better shot maker than his brother. His shot profile is better than his brother's profile. His brother is a little taller and a little longer and a better athlete and an elite ball handler and elite in pick and roll decision making. But Asor actually has a better shot profile, and I think he has a chance to be a better overall shooter. Now, there's a chance he could go as high as 5, and there are, rumors that he might slide down to 9 or 10, so that's right in that 9 wheelhouse. If I had to guess, he's not there at 9, so I don't think the Jazz will have the ability to take him. But like Whitmore, if you have a top 5 prospect that slides to 9, and then you take a flyer on him, a lot of people would consider that a win. They both play G League Ignite, and it's hard to analyze that competition. It's different than college. It's different than internationals. Victor Wembanyama, the MVP of the French League at 19. That's impressive. So that's the one area that a lot of people are struggling with, analyzing these elite athletes. How good was their competition with the G League Ignite? Does that translate on the NBA level?
All right, Walker out of Houston. You play for Houston. You're an athlete, 6'7" kid. You
So
like him.
if you're going to play for Kelvin Sampson, you got to rebound and you got to
Yeah.
guard. Okay.
Right.
If you're going to play for Kelvin Sampson, you have to do hard things, and that's what this kid does. He's an absolute beast. There's a lot to love about him. Jarace Walker is an underrated playmaker for a guy that at that size is better known as a rebounder and a defender. I don't love comps, but I'm going to give you Jazz fans one.
Oh, I love him, though.
Paul Millsap. Okay.
Oh, really?
There's a little bit of Paul Millsap to this guy. He's a little bigger, a little better built, but he can really board. But he has ball skills that Paul didn't have as a young player. Paul developed that later on when he became an all-star in Atlanta. So I would not mind to see the Jazz take Jarace Walker at all, but another player that probably isn't going to be there at 9. So another 5 or 6, top 5 or 6 prospect, and if he slides, the Jazz could be there to grab him, and it would be a really good pick.
Millsap had a nice career, by the way.
Yeah, he had an
in the
amazing
NBA,
career, yeah.
We're getting taller as we go through this.
Yeah.
6'8", Taylor Hendricks, another one that you like that's on your list.
Okay, so Taylor, to me, the way I'll put this is, he is my best case realistic scenario at 9. Okay, so I'm not sure that he gets there. I heard today Indiana had him back for a second workout and loves him. They're at 7. Okay, so I don't know that he's there at 9, but realistically, if he is, I view this as best case. Okay, a couple things here. It's always hard to analyze young players and figure out whether or not they've improved because they're so young. He already has. Coming out of high school, he was not thought to be an NBA prospect. Case in point, he played for UCF, not a big-time Duke, Carolina, Kansas blue blood. Played for Johnny Dawkins, Jay Billis' Duke teammate. And Jay was on a pod I listened to today that just raved about his improvement. And here's the thing, man. Back in the day, the old saying during the draft was, if you're going to make a mistake, make a big mistake. Draft a big, right?
Oh, yeah,
and
okay.
if you whip on the big,
at least he's big.
now for me,
Yeah.
if you're going to make a draft mistake, draft a guy that can shoot it. Make a shooting mistake. He's a better shooter than Walker. He's a better shooter than either of the Thompson twins. He's one of the best shooters in the top 10. Length, can guard. This, to me, is best case 9 scenario for the Jazz.
The Spence Checketts with the other guy. What's his name? Oh, it's Dave Fox. We spoke all day yesterday here on 2 News Live. I'll say that for about 15, 20 minutes. We spoke about the Jazz coming home to K-Jazz. It was on 2 News Live. You can see the full thing right now on our KUTV2 News YouTube page.
I love getting that insight for tomorrow's draft.
It's awesome.
Really curious to see what's going to happen.
It's great. I think the Jazz have the opportunity right now to do a little bit of everything with those 3 picks. Will they trade one away? Will they move things around? I think keeping 9 is probably a good idea. Pretty cool. Dave and I were talking yesterday about the TV deal, right? Or the not a deal, but the partnership with K-Jazz. How exciting that is. You were ranting and raving about that. You were excited?
Yeah, I mean, everything's like a throwback lately, it feels like. Of course, now it's the Delta Center. Growing up, used to watch all those games on K-Jazz, and you kind of still think of K-Jazz as Jazz station. And of course, now that we do newscasts on K-Jazz, and now we're going to be watching the Jazz, it's just kind of fun.
Can you believe that it happened to, correlate with the name K-Jazz and Jazz?
It's
Can you
serendipitous.
believe that? Yes. And it's been a while. 2009 was the last time those games were on K-Jazz.
Yep.
If you'd like to learn more about that partnership, there's plenty about it at KUTV.com. We are done, though, here for 2 News Live tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow at 5:30. We're with you Monday through Friday. Hope to see you again for some more in-depth conversations. Have a great rest of your night. We will see you tomorrow. First day of summer, the longest day. Get outside.
183 days away from winter.
All right. We're ready for it.
Countdown.